Absolutely. Here's a powerful and deeply convincing opening for your speech. Push yourself to be consistent. Written in the passionate, raw, and high-energy style of Eric Thomas, designed to grab your audience by the heart and demand their full attention. Listen to me. I don't know who you are, where you come from, or what your background is, but I know one thing about you. You want something. There's something inside you that's calling out for more. You didn't show up here by accident. You showed up because deep down you know there's another level. You know you got more in you. But let me tell you the truth most people don't want to hear. Wanting it ain't enough. Wishing for it, dreaming about it, getting fired up for one day, then quitting the next. That's not gonna cut it. Everybody wants to be great until it's time to do what greatness requires. And what it requires is consistency. See, you think your problem is that you're not motivated. No. Your problem is that you're not consistent. You start strong, but you don't stay strong. You show up for a week, maybe even a month, and then life hits, distractions come, feelings shift, and you fall off. And every time you fall off, every time you stop showing up, you're training your mind to break promises to yourself. You're telling your future it can wait. Again, but I came here today to interrupt that cycle. I came here to look you in the face and say, enough. If you're tired of starting over, stop quitting. If you're tired of watching other people live your dream, then stop watching and start building. If you're tired of being average, then do what average people don't do. Keep showing up no matter how you feel, because listen to me, consistency changes everything. Not talent, not hype, not followers. Consistency. That's what builds champions. That's what separates winners from the rest. That's how the broke become wealthy, how the weak become strong, how the unknown become legends. So I'm gonna need you to lock in. Not just for the next 2 minutes, not just for the highlights of this speech, but all the way through. Why? Because somewhere in these words is the exact shift you've been praying for. And if you miss it, you might miss the moment that changes everything. So sit up, focus, dial in. You keep thinking the problem is motivation. You keep thinking if you could just wake up and feel excited every day, if you could just stay pumped up, if you could just stay inspired, then you'd finally follow through. But let me tell you the truth that most people run from. Motivation is a liar. Motivation is like a guest that shows up when everything's going well. When the sun's out, the mood's right, the vibes are good. But the moment it gets cold, the moment it gets hard, the moment you get tired, motivation disappears. You don't build greatness off feelings, you build it off commitment, off doing what you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has left. You know how many people have talent but never made it. You know how many people had potential but never showed up for themselves consistently enough to reach it. It's not about how fired up you are at the start. It's about who still shows up after the fire dies down. That's where the separation begins. Every year, every month, people start strong. They get that gym membership. They write down those goals. They talk about how this is gonna be their season. But when that first storm comes, when the alarm clock hits 5 a.m. and it's dark and cold, when the first setback hits, when nobody's clapping for them anymore, they fall off, because they were relying on a feeling, not a standard. You can't afford to let your future hang on something as unreliable as motivation. You need something deeper, something stronger. You need consistency. You can't keep letting your feelings drive your decisions. Feelings are temporary. You're not always gonna feel like working out. You're not always gonna feel like studying. You're not always gonna feel like showing up for that business, that dream, that calling. But if your feelings are in control, then guess what? Your future is not. If you let your emotions steer the wheel, don't be surprised when your life ends up somewhere you never wanted to go. Let me tell you what consistency really is. It's your way of telling the universe, I'm serious. It's your way of saying, I want this even when it's inconvenient. I want this even when it's hard. I want this even when nobody else believes in it but me. Consistency is the loudest statement you can make. Because anybody can show up once. Anybody can post when they're winning. Anybody can grind for a week. But when you show up again and again and again, even when it hurts, even when it's boring, even when it's thankless, you're telling the world, I'm not just interested. I'm committed. You want the body, but you only train when you're motivated. You want the business, but you only grind when you feel good. You want the life, but you're letting your emotions choose when you show up. And then you wonder why it's not working. Let me ask you something. When's the last time you kept going when you didn't feel like it? When's the last time you pushed past the emotion and just did what needed to be done? That's the difference between the dreamer and the doer. The dreamer waits to feel right. The doer gets up and moves anyway. I'm not here to tell you that consistency is easy. It's not, but it's necessary. It's necessary because your goals don't care how you feel. Your purpose doesn't wait until you're in the mood. Your destiny is on the other side of your discipline. You've got to wake up every single day and choose the grind, choose the effort, choose the work. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's when it counts the most. That's when the breakthrough is being built. That's when your character is being formed. If you can learn to show up no matter what, no matter how tired, no matter how discouraged, no matter how empty, you will become unstoppable, because most people quit. Most people fold. Most people let emotions run their life, but not you. You're going to be the one who stays solid when others get shaky. You're going to be the one who moves forward even when the road gets rough. You're going to be the one who lives consistent, not convenient. And when that becomes who you are, there's not a force on earth that can keep you from what's yours. Show up even when it doesn't make sense, and watch your life transform. You keep thinking you need to do something huge to change your life. You keep waiting for the big moment, the perfect opportunity, the grand breakthrough. But let me tell you something. It's not the big moves that change everything. It's the small ones you make every single day. You don't need to be extreme. You just need to be consistent. Because when you show up daily, even when it's small, even when it seems like nothing's happening, that's where the shift begins. Every time you show up, you're making a deposit into your future. It may not feel like much. You might not see the results right away. You might be sweating, grinding, pushing, and still feel like nothing's moving. But something is happening. You're building something. You're stacking days, you're stacking wins, and after a while, those wins start to grow. 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 5, then 10, then 30. Before you know it, you've built a rhythm, you've built a mindset, you've built momentum. See, the mistake most people make is they try to go all in one day. They think if they work 10 hours today, that'll fix what they ignored for 10 months. They crash diet, binge hustle, burn themselves out, and then they quit because it was never about discipline, it was just about hype. But consistency isn't sexy, it's not loud, it doesn't scream, it whispers. It's quiet. It's you in the dark, showing up when nobody's watching. It's doing the work when there's no applause, no validation, just you and your standard, you and your decision to be better. You know how legends are built. Day by day, not off one big performance, but off years of doing the boring stuff better than everybody else. The greats don't just show up when they feel like it. They've trained themselves to show up regardless. They've mastered the art of daily discipline, and the truth is, the reason most people don't make it isn't because they're not capable. It's because they don't keep showing up. They stop. They pause. They hesitate. They give up right before it gets good. You might think nobody sees you grinding. Nobody sees you working. Nobody's clapping for you. But guess what? That's when it matters most. When you show up without an audience, without applause, without rewards, that's where you build something unshakable. That's where you build confidence. Not the kind of confidence that comes from fake hype or fake likes. I'm talking about real earned, solid confidence that comes from honoring your word to yourself. You said you'd do it, and you did. That's how self-belief is built, not through results, through consistency. And some of you, you've got everything it takes. You've got the talent, you've got the mind, you've got the dream, but you're waiting for motivation, waiting for the right time, waiting for someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. But you don't need any of that. All you need to do is start showing up daily. That's how it shifts, not in a week, not in a month, maybe not even in a year, but it will shift. I promise you, if you keep putting in the work, the results will come. You plant a seed, and you don't dig it up every day looking for fruit. You water it. You trust the process. That's consistency. Every workout when your body says rest. Every early morning when your mind says sleep. Every rep. Every page, every session, every step, it all counts, even when it's small, especially when it's small, because the small habits shape the identity, and the identity, that's what builds the future. The power of showing up daily is that over time, you start becoming the kind of person who does. And when you're that kind of person, someone who does, nothing is out of reach. You don't hope anymore. You don't wish. You know. You trust yourself. You stop being intimidated by the mountain because you know every day, step by step, you're climbing it. No matter how long it takes. So don't wait for perfect. Don't chase extremes. Just show up today. Then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Because the ones who win, they weren't the most talented. They were the most committed to never missing a day. Everybody's got dreams. Everybody's got goals. Everybody's got that vision in their head of the life they want, the level they want to reach, the legacy they want to leave. And that's great, because vision is the starting point. But let me be real with you. A dream without discipline is just a wish. A goal without consistency is just a fantasy. The only thing standing between where you are right now and where you want to be is work. It's discipline. It's your ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it is necessary. And if you're serious about success, real success, you can't live your life waiting on motivation to carry you. Because motivation might get you started, but only discipline will keep you going. Discipline is what makes you get up when you'd rather sleep in. It's what pushes you to do another rep when you're already tired. It's what forces you to study, train, build, and execute long after everybody else has quit. That's what separates the average from the elite. You think people who've made it just had better luck. You think they had more resources, better timing, more support. No, the truth is, they just made a decision to stop negotiating with their emotions, a decision to stop looking for shortcuts, a decision to commit, fully, consistently, and without excuses. They built a standard and stuck to it. Not because they felt like it, but because they understood that discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. That dream you've got, it's possible. That level you want, it's available, but it's not free and it's not easy. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you comfort. It's going to cost you some late nights and early mornings. It's going to demand that you show up when you're tired, when you're doubting, when you're hurting. It's going to ask you to keep pushing even when you see no results. And that's where most people tap out, because they thought the dream came with feelings. But what it really comes with is discipline. You want to know why discipline is so powerful, because it keeps you consistent. And consistency over time is what transforms people, not the one-time bursts of greatness. not the overnight success moments people talk about. Those are illusions. What really creates winners is repetition, doing the right things over and over until they compound, until they build strength, until they create opportunities, until they turn habits into character and character into success. And I know it's hard. I know it gets exhausting showing up every day and not seeing the immediate result. I know it's frustrating to sacrifice so much and still feel stuck. But that's the test. That's the filter. That's where greatness is separated from mediocrity, because when most people get to that place, they walk away. But if you want to win, if you want to build a legacy, you have to lean in, you have to double down. You have to trust that every ounce of discipline you're pouring in now is building a foundation that nothing and no one can shake. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. And your standards are shaped by your daily habits. The way you show up, the way you grind, the way you attack your schedule. Those little actions reflect how serious you are. So ask yourself, are your habits aligned with your goals? Or are your actions saying something different than your words? Because talk is cheap, motivation is temporary, but discipline is what speaks when your mouth is shut. Discipline is what shows up for you when nothing else will. And maybe you've fallen off before. Maybe you've broken some promises to yourself. Maybe you've started and stopped so many times that you're doubting if you can ever be consistent. Let me tell you, you can. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be disciplined. You do have to start keeping your word. You do have to build trust with yourself again. And it starts with one decision: I will show up. I will put in the work. I will close the gap between who I am and who I'm meant to be. Discipline is the difference maker. It's the daily choice to show up for your future even when your present feels heavy. So stop waiting, stop making excuses, and start building the bridge. With discipline, every single day, at some point on this journey, you're going to get tired. Let's just be real. You're going to wake up one day and not feel like doing any of it. You're going to get frustrated, drained, mentally and emotionally exhausted. You're going to question why you even started. You're going to look around and wonder if it's even worth it. That's not a maybe, that's a guarantee. And if you think consistency means waking up every day excited and on fire, you've already lost. Because this path isn't always exciting. It's not always fresh. Sometimes it's straight up boring. Sometimes it's repetitive. Sometimes it feels like you're doing everything right and nothing's changing. That's the moment where people fall off. That's where most people stop. But hear me when I say this. That's also the exact moment you need to push harder. Because right there, in that space between where you are and where you want to be, that wall you're hitting, that's the dividing line between average and extraordinary. That wall is not there to stop you. It's there to see who has the guts to break through it. That's where you separate yourself. That's where the champions are born. Not in the easy days, not in the hype, not when everybody's cheering, but in the silence, in the monotony, in the fatigue. That's where you level up. You've got to push through the boredom, push through the burnout, because it's part of the process. See, everyone talks about success like it's this highlight reel. Cars, money, followers, fame, but they don't talk about the lonely days. They don't talk about the hours where you're grinding with no recognition, no progress, no spark. But those days are the ones that matter most, because those are the days that build toughness. Those are the days that shape you into someone who doesn't fold. That's where the real growth happens. The truth is, it's easy to be consistent when things are going your way. It's easy to show up when you're seeing results. But what about when you're doing all the right things and the scale still won't move? What about when the business isn't growing, when the platform is quiet, when your body hurts and your mind is tired? What about then? Because if you can only show up when it's convenient, you'll never be great. You'll always be at the mercy of your emotions. But if you can learn to show up even when it sucks, especially when it sucks, now you've got something dangerous. Now you've got something unshakable. You've got to understand that breakthrough lives on the other side of resistance. You're in the gym, and that rep burns. That's the one that's changing you. You're writing that book and the words won't come. That's the chapter that's going to free someone. You're building that business and nothing's moving. That's the season where your character is getting forged. That's the moment where your mental muscles are getting stronger. Most people retreat. Most people shrink. Most people hit the wall and say, I guess it wasn't meant for me. But not you. You were built for this. You were made to push through. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel invisible. You're going to feel like nobody understands how hard you're going at it. But remember, this consistency isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's brutal, but it always pays off. You don't need to feel amazing to keep going. You just need to remember why you started. You just need to remember who you're doing this for. Your future, your family, your purpose. That's the fuel. That's what keeps the fire alive when motivation goes cold. And I need you to stop measuring progress by what you see right now. Progress is sneaky. It works underground. It builds in the shadows. And one day, when you least expect it, something shifts. The results come. The doors open. The favor hits. But it only comes to those who didn't quit. It only comes to those who showed up when it was hard, when it was boring, when it was dry, when it felt pointless. That's what this whole thing is about. Pushing when there's nothing left to push with. So if you're in that place right now, burned out, worn down, ready to give up, don't. That pain you're feeling, it's not punishment. It's preparation. That pressure you're under, it's not meant to break you. It's shaping you. You just keep showing up. You keep pushing. You keep grinding. Because on the other side of this season is the life you've been praying for. And only the consistent ever see it.